am the most virtuous woman in Yongin. I am filial to my parents, in-law above, and get along with my sisters, in-law below. Even when my husband wanted to take an equal wife, I considerately said, "Our great Zhao doesn't recognize equal wives. I am afraid this would wrong Miss Shen. How about you divorce me first, and when the commotion dies down, I'll become the equal wife." When Miss Shen's letter arrived, I was being lectured in my mother-in-law's courtyard. The 4 senior maids Mei, Lan, Ju, and Ju stood in a row. My mother-in-law said coldly, "Pick one to take back. You must send her into Chang'an's room today. Otherwise, don't blame me for taking a concubine for him." I meekly responded, "Your daughter. In-law will certainly do her best." Perhaps seeing me too obedient, she sighed and said, "I don't want to make things difficult for you either. But you've been married for 5 years, and my son is already 28. Look around Yong'an City. Which family's son at this age still has no children? Even if it is a girl, there should at least be one, right?" I understand how difficult this is for my mother-in-law. She is usually not harsh with me. She has just been pushed to her limit. It is only because my husband stubbornly insists on having only a wife, absolutely refusing concubines and chambermaids. But after 5 years, he and I haven't had the fortune to receive the blessing of the childbirth goddess, not even one child. On the way back, Qingju lowered her voice and said, "Miss, it is a good thing that the young master is devoted to you alone. Don't be scared by the old madam's threats. Without the young master's approval, even if a concubine is brought in, she'll just be left alone. You mustn't be foolish and quarrel with the young master." Her analysis was so thorough and well-reasoned. She didn't seem like a maid from the Chung family at all. I poked her head. How can a woman say such things? Be careful, or Nanny Chen will punish you if she hears. My name is Chung Kai. When I was very, very young, I had a biological older sister. They say she was the most fierce, tempered daughter the Chung family had seen in 100 years. Her husband favored his concubine and destroyed his wife, causing her own daughter to die. So she set fire to that mansion. Her husband, the concubine, her parents-in-law, along with herself, none survived. Burned along with them was the reputation of the Cheng family daughters. Everyone said that even though that man was in the wrong, my sister's actions were terrifying. If this was how the Cheng family raised their daughters, no family would dare marry a Cheng daughter. Grandfather expelled my sister from the Chung family. Her remains were rejected by her husband's family and not claimed by her natal family to silence the wagging tongues. But still, the Chung family daughters couldn't marry into prestigious families for over a decade. Mother put away all the books my sister had read, and I was forbidden from learning any of the skills she had learned. Growing up, the words I heard most often were, when she stroked my head and said sadly, "Kai, you are my only daughter now. Be good. You must become the most obedient woman in Yong'an." I was very obedient. When Mother told me to read the Precepts for Women, I read the Precepts for Women. When she said, "A husband is a wife's heaven," I believed that being free of jealousy, gentle, and demure were a woman's most beautiful virtues. Every lady in Yong'an who had met me knew that the 13th Miss of the Chung family was the most proper woman there could be. But still no noble family dared to marry me. At 23, just when Mother was in despair and preparing to marry me off to some poor scholar like my other cousins, the Shi family came calling. The matchmaker said to my mother with a smile, "Mrs. C heard that your family has a gentle and well-mannered young lady. She is absolutely delighted and specially sent me to sound things out." That was one of Yong'an's top aristocratic families. Mother forced herself to follow all the proper etiquette, waiting for them to visit 3 times to show sincerity, then agreed without delay. Grandfather prepared a generous dowry for me and even gave me Nanny Chen, the most proper-mannered servant in the household. The old man looked at me with earnest eyes. "Good child, your nieces are growing up too. Their future depends entirely on you." I was born late. So many of my nieces are around my age. I understood grandfather's meaning. After more than 10 years, elder sister was just a faint shadow now. As long as I did well, everyone would accept daughters of the Chung family again. Bearing such a heavy burden, I married in with trepidation. But I never expected that my husband Shi Cheng'an would turn out to be such a refined and upright gentleman. His bearing was elegant as a cypress, his temperament gentle. He treated me with meticulous care, and didn't even have the concubine maids commonly seen among sons of aristocratic families. At first, I was anxious. Women have inconvenient days each month. Arranging bedroom matters for a husband's needs, and for an heir is a wife's duty. Especially after the second year passed, and I still wasn't pregnant. But Shi Chang'an refused. At first, I thought the people I arranged didn't suit his taste. After careful consideration, I asked him directly, but he just shook his head and said, "Having a wife like you, others are all worthless grass. I don't fancy them." Very sweet words to hear, but not part of my upbringing. A trace of unfamiliar sweetness grew in my heart, so unfamiliar it frightened me. To avoid being devoured by this sweetness, I put even more effort into finding concubines for him. If there were none in the household, I'd seek out girls from modest families who knew poetry and books. My mother-in-law was gratified by my sensibility, and when others asked about it, they all praised me highly. But this very sensibility made Shi Chang'an lose his temper with me for the first time. He pointed at those portraits of women and asked me, "Chung Kai, if I really did enjoy moonlit nights and harmonious music with them, you wouldn't feel pain or jealousy?" I was startled by the word jealousy and shook my head in panic. Of course I am not jealous. Doing what is good for my husband, how could I be jealous? He looked at me and laughed through gritted teeth. Good, good, good. Since my wife is so magnanimous, I was being petty. He flicked his sleeve and left. From that night on, he slept alone in his study and stopped coming to my room. Mother-in-law sighed and said, "You are a good child, but Chang'an has had this stubborn temperament since he was young. Go coax him. If he won't even come to your room, then having an heir becomes even more hopeless." With mother-in-law's words, I stopped bringing up the matter of taking concubines on my own initiative. After all, following the teachings of elders is a more important virtue. But starting last year, mother-in-law could no longer sit still. I looked at Kaiju and said, "Since you were bestowed by an elder, my husband will surely not treat you too harshly. Go wait in the West Wing room for when my husband returns." Qingju still wouldn't give up. Seeing that Nanny Chen wasn't around, she closed the door and took out a letter. "Miss, look. Even while on duty, the young master was thinking of you, and had a servant send this letter back. Do you really want to share such a good husband with someone else?" The handwriting on the envelope that read "For my wife's eyes only" was my husband's. I opened it with a smile. It read, "Lady Chung, if you wish to know who Chang'an truly fancies, come to Flying Crane Tower at once for a chat." Handwriting very similar to my husband's, but more delicate than his. Qingju curiously leaned over to look, and was immediately fired up. "What ill-mannered girl from which family would send you such a letter, miss? Let's go meet her." The Cheng family's discipline was too strict, and that applied to the maids as well. After relaxing a bit, these past few years at the Shi household, Qingju became fond of reading martial arts adventure storybooks, and sometimes even spoke with a bit of bandit flair. She and I grew up like sisters, and I'd always indulged her, so I nodded. "All right, let's go meet her." When we arrived at Flying Crane Tower, a little maid was already waiting for us. She led us into a private room and said in a low voice, "Our Miss and young Master Shi are in the next room. There is a small hole in this wall. You can both see them and hear them. As for the rest, you can see for yourself." The hole was a bit small. I leaned forward to take a look and saw Shi Chang'an tightly embracing a beautiful woman. It is improper to look at such things. After one glance, I withdrew. But just like that little maid said, I could hear their conversation crystal clear. The woman said angrily, "Shi Chang'an, you promised me that with her it was just an act, and now you are only letting me be a second wife." Shi Chang'an's tone lost its usual calmness, sounding both distressed and anxious. "You are pregnant. Don't get so worked up and make a scene. Why did I marry her back then? Don't you know? Your whole family was exiled. If I didn't marry, Mother wouldn't let me leave. If I didn't leave, who could protect you all in the place of exile? Cheng family's 13th miss is famous throughout Yong'an for her pushover personality. That is why I chose her. Don't you know that too?" With those words, the woman calmed down a bit and fussed coquettishly. "I don't care. Anyway, she has no child now, but I have a child. Go back and talk to her, make her leave. In your courtyard, there can only be me." Shi Chang'an let out a low sigh. "Suyu, it was I who drugged her. That is why she hasn't had children for 5 years. In the end, we're the ones who wronged her. I won't touch her again from now on. Just let her keep the empty title of Madame Shi, and I'll support her for life as compensation. All right. I touched my belly. So that is how it is. This is why I haven't had children. Jingju opened her mouth to curse, but I covered it and dragged her to the room next door. She shouted indignantly, "Miss, they're bullying you like this. Bullying you like this. Let me go out and argue with them." I shook my head and said with a bit of happiness, "That young lady has a child in her belly. A child her mother-in-law has been looking forward to for a long time." Jingju's eyes reddened, and she said with a sobbing tone, "But that is a child the young master had with someone else. He went behind your back and got another woman pregnant. Miss, if you are upset, just cry it out." I looked at her seriously. Nonsense. A virtuous woman wouldn't be upset at a time like this. She would only be happy for the family. As soon as I finished speaking, a mocking laugh came from the doorway. "Lady Cheng, you really are the most pathetic lady in all of Yong'an. I've already come to your doorstep, and you are still going on about your virtue." She was a woman completely different from me, very sharp. The moment she appeared, she could draw everyone's attention away. She continued, "No matter what you think, I need to make things clear with you. It is not that I, Shen Suyu, want to steal your husband, but that you've been occupying my position for 5 years. Shi Chang'an was mine to begin with. You are the one who came later." She looked at me and recounted her past with Shi Chang'an word by word. She said they were childhood sweethearts. He came riding his bamboo horse while she played around the bed. They grew up together from their childhood years to when she became a bashful young woman. Her first eyebrow pencil was given by Shi Chang'an. The first sachet she embroidered hung at Shi Chang'an's waist. And they had promised to spend their lives together, hand in hand. But, when she was 23, just as the two families were about to exchange their betrothal cards, her father committed a crime and the whole family was exiled. For the sons and daughters of great clans and families, who they love doesn't matter. Not dragging down the family is the top priority. The Shi family immediately denied all past affections, claiming the two families had only met for matchmaking talks. At this age, who doesn't go through a few matchmaking meetings? But Shi Chang'an was a romantic fool. He refused to give up. He was the best scholar among his generation in the Shi family, and while they placed high hopes on him, they naturally also gave him some manpower and resources. He used these to secretly ensure the Shen family's safety in their place of exile, while rejecting all the excellent marriage matches that Madame Shi sought for him. After 2 years of refusals, Madame Shi finally noticed something was off. The Shi family weighed their options and locked Shi Chang'an up as long as he didn't agree to marry. They wouldn't let him out. At that time, he hadn't yet passed the imperial examinations, so confining him for a while posed no problem for the Shi family. But with no one to protect Shen Suyu in exile, even the shortest time could spell trouble. Shi Chang'an ultimately gave in. He chose me, Yong'an's most obedient Miss Cheng the 13th. That way, even if Shen Suyu returned someday, I wouldn't have the ability to make things difficult for her. Shen Suyu looked at me with a mocking smile. "You think that consideration and loyalty was really for you? He was just making the Shi family believe he no longer loved me. That protecting me was only to honor our childhood bond. That way the Shi family wouldn't cause me trouble, and wouldn't stop him from sheltering me. Cheng Kai, you are truly pitiful. That bit of kindness you got from him, it was all stolen from me. But now, I don't want you to steal him. He must be completely mine. If you have any self-respect, just leave on your own." Her mouth opened and closed, but my eyes were just glued to her belly. Afraid she'd get thirsty from talking, I even handed her a cup of tea and said, "Miss Shen, don't get worked up. The child comes first. I'll listen to whatever you say." She pushed my hand away and looked at me in shock, as if looking at a monster. "Cheng Kai, I am declaring war on you." "You are so calm. Are you not taking me seriously?" I sighed and reiterated once again, "The heir comes first. Whatever demands you make, the Shi family will do our best to meet them." Shen Suyu was driven away by my attitude, and Qingju was also pretty pissed off at me. She pouted and said, "Miss, don't you have any temper at all?" After speaking, she lowered her head sadly again. "Right, the young lady of the Cheng family isn't allowed to have a temper." I rubbed her head and smiled, "But the maids of the Cheng family can have a temper. Be angry for me. I need to go to the medicine shop to get some herbs." When I entered the medicine shop, I bought every single one of the most expensive pregnancy preserving medicines. The doctor recognized me. He'd been helping me regulate my body these past 2 years. He asked in surprise, "Are you pregnant? Then I should come to the residence to take your pulse. How could I let you come in person?" I shook my head and said happily, "It is not me, but it is still a happy occasion for the family. You'll find out in a while." At this time of year, it was when the wealthy families of Yong'an came to the medicine shop to select autumn and winter tonics. The main hall was filled with maids and servants, and many of them recognized me. Though they didn't dare approach me, their eyes kept darting toward me. The 13th lady of the Cheng family, who hadn't been able to conceive for 5 years, coming to get pregnancy, preserving medicine, Enyon would want to catch an earful of that. But I pretended not to notice. After getting the medicine, I left on my own. Shi Cheng'en came back very late. I kept the lamp lit and waited for him the whole time. He had been drinking. Leaning back against the chair, he seemed a bit afraid to look at me, my wife. Half a year ago, I got drunk and made a mistake. I was inappropriate with a woman. Now she is pregnant and I want to bring her into the household. I pretended I didn't already know about this, adding a touch more delight to my usual docility. Really, a pregnancy is a joyous occasion. I must go tell mother-in-law, right away. Si Cheng'an looked up at me, his gaze complex, both dejected and relieved. "Kai, sometimes I really wonder, what would it take for you to actually feel jealous?" I lowered my head. "Husband, you jest. Taking concubines for you is my duty." Hearing the words, "taking concubines," he frowned. "This is another troublesome matter. She is a daughter from a respectable family. Her family refuses to let her become a concubine. I want to discuss with you, elevating her to equal wife status." I asked by the book, "Oh, how respectable a family is it?" "Her name is Shen Suyu. Her father used to be the Minister of Works. A few years ago, he was implicated in factional strife and laid low for a while. Now His Majesty intends to reinstate him, at the very least giving him the position of Vice Minister of Works." Speaking of official positions, he glanced at me carefully, took my hand, and comforted me. "Your elder brother will have opportunities in the future. In our Cheng family, those of the previous generation who should retire have all retired. In this generation, my elder brother is the most accomplished, and what he is currently striving for is precisely the position of Vice Minister of Works." Pulling my hand away, I smiled faintly. "I don't understand matters outside, but if she is the daughter of a Vice Minister of Works, and Miss Shen is also pregnant, wouldn't making her an equal wife be too unfair to her? After all, in the laws of Great Zhao, an equal wife is still a concubine, just with a better-sounding title, and it is easy to attract criticism from the censors. How about this? Husband, you divorce me first, then properly marry Miss Shen with full ceremony. After she enters the family, I'll take the position of equal wife." "Cheng Kai, what nonsense are you talking about? How could I possibly divorce you?" Si Chang'an practically jumped up from his chair, in rage. "Divorce you? What would a rule-abiding woman like you do? Would that stuffy family of the Chengs even allow you back? Even if you shaved your head and became a nun, with your temperament, you'd only be bullied." His anger seemed so genuine that I couldn't help but redden my eyes. Since husband thinks of me this way, I must naturally also think of the Shi family. Miss Shen comes from a good family. Since she has won your affection, she must be talented as well, and will certainly be able to raise the child well in the future. After seeing doctors for so long, I know that I won't be able to bear children in this lifetime. So the child she bears will be the Shi family's future. If I cling to the position of the main wife, wouldn't that put him in a difficult position later on? Hearing about Shen Suyu and her child, Shi Chang'an calmed down a bit. Watching his expression, I quietly asked one last question. "Or does my husband think that I can still have my own children in the future?" This question made him completely unable to look at me, and he leaned back into his chair. As expected, he didn't plan on letting me have children. I wiped away the non-existent tears at the corners of my eyes and said with a smile, "Besides, I am not really leaving. We'll do everything quietly submit the divorce papers to the authorities. And after you hold the wedding with Miss Shen, and her status is settled, we'll quietly move my registry back. If outsiders find out in the future, we'll just say that I was ashamed of not bearing you any children and requested it myself. so the censors won't be able to criticize you, or father-in-law. Husband, it is better to wrong me alone than to wrong Miss Shen and her child. Shi Chang'an stopped speaking. After a long while, he touched my face and said, Kai, you are always so understanding that it breaks my heart. On the surface, Chung Kai still seemed like that meek and obedient person in this conversation. Her eyes reddened. She wiped her tears, every sentence thinking of the Shi family. But if you look closely, every single sentence of hers was like a knife. On the surface, it was yielding to the extreme, but in reality, she was forcing Shi Chang'an into a corner. She understood this man too well. Shi Chang'an wanted face, wanted reputation, but she deliberately brought it up, and said it with sincere emotion and perfect reasoning. She was telling Shi Chang'an, I'll give you everything you want, but you must be the one to make the decision to divorce your wife. This infamy, you bear it yourself. Cheng Kai spent over 20 years learning to follow the rules, then spent 2 years learning to turn the rules into a weapon. This is the most brilliant part of this story. She didn't become another person. She just used the same set of rules, except this time, the blade points outward. Zi Chang'an was probably truly moved by me. He decided not to have me step forward for the matter of divorcing his wife and remarrying, and would face his parents himself. The family shut themselves in the room to discuss for most of the day. By dinner time, my mother-in-law finally called me over. My father-in-law only looked at me approvingly once before leaving. My mother-in-law held my hand and said with pity, Good child, you are still the most thoughtful one. Rest assured, from now on, you'll be in the west courtyard. She'll be in the east courtyard. No distinction in status. Both are good daughters-in-law of our Shi family. I absolutely won't let anyone bully you. The grandson she'd been hoping for all these years was about to arrive, and now the Shen family could also bring support to Shi Chang'an. My mother-in-law was genuinely happy. Looking at her beaming face, I smiled too. Yes, I trust mother will treat me well. After that, the Shi household fell into a busyness that had nothing to do with me. Shi Chang'an wanted to give Shen Suyu a wedding. Publicly, due to reputation concerns, he couldn't invite many people, but privately, this was a complete marriage with proper matchmaking and betrothal gifts. I ran into Shen Suyu once more at the medicine shop. She looked at me with an indescribable expression. Lady Chung, you really are a lunatic. Everyone in Yong'an called me soft and weak. She was the first to call me a lunatic. I lifted the tonic medicine in my hand and smiled as I gave it to her. I was getting it for you anyway. Since we've run into each other, I'll just give it to you directly. This time she didn't mock me, only said with pity, Now I believe it. You are the most rule-abiding woman there is. So just stay in the west courtyard and live well with those rules. Too bad she still didn't understand what women under such rules are really like. A woman like me who cannot bear children for her husband and has been cast aside. I am afraid there is no path left to live, let alone any way to live well. The day the divorce letter was finalized, it was rainy and overcast. Facing the courtyard full of red silk, Qingju and I left through the gates. Qingju nervously grabbed my hand. Miss, are we really going to do this? I nodded. Yes, I've spoiled you too much. You can't go back to the Cheng family anymore. Don't worry, Miss will take care of you for the rest of your life. With the drizzle falling, there weren't many people by the river, but there were still some. Qingju and I walked to a slightly more distant spot, making sure the nearest person would need some time to run over, then plunged headfirst into the river. The river water in early winter was icy cold, seeping into our cotton clothes and dragging us down. I tightly held Qingju's hand, afraid she would be swept away. From the distant shore, noisy voices gradually came through. Someone come quickly. There are people drowning here. Who knows how to swim? Hurry and go save them. Cheng Shizaniang, the most pathetic woman in Yong'an, did something truly unbelievable. Her husband set her aside to remarry, divorcing her, and to preserve the Cheng family daughter's reputation. She threw herself into the river to show her resolve. This was the hottest rumor in town lately. Ah, such a pitiful woman, only 22 when she died. You are telling me that Shi family is really something else. Taking a concubine and having kids is one thing, but why divorce his wife? For women from those big families, divorce is no different from forcing them to their death. My aunt's sister's family has a niece, working as a maid in a big official's household. I heard that this Lady Chung was the most pathetic legal wife ever. When that concubine got pregnant, she happily went out to get tonic herbs for her. TSK, even being that tolerant, she still ended up dead. Their own daughter just gone like that. Didn't the Cheng family make a scene at their door? How could they not? My niece said that, among those big families, the Cheng family was known for raising their daughters to be the most spineless. But this time, the Shi family was completely in the wrong. It is not like Lady Cheng forbade taking concubines, but the Shi family didn't even notify the Cheng family. They quietly went to the Yamen and processed the divorce. Even if a husband is his wife's heaven, there is no being this unreasonable. Every family has daughters and sisters. The mistress of the household where my niece works is holding a grudge, waiting to see what happens to the Shi family. Actually, I know a bit of inside information too. I heard Lady Cheng was swept away by big waves, and they only found a piece of clothing and one shoe. That heartless bastard from the Shi family is now putting on a show of deep affection, refusing to accept that his wife is gone, leading people to search along the river day and night. With waves that big, and Lady Cheng couldn't swim. Things look dire. The Cheng family, heartbroken over their daughter, and worried she'd be helpless and alone, set up a cenotaph and are preparing for the funeral procession today. The funeral procession might even pass by this tea house later. Amid the lively discussion, Qingju let out a big sigh of relief. "Miss, we really didn't implicate the Cheng family, and we even helped them." The tension in my heart also eased, and I showed a hint of a smile. I hadn't misjudged grandfather. It wasn't that he didn't want to stand up for the Cheng family daughters. He was waiting for an opportunity. These years, because I did well in the Shi family, my nieces were gradually able to marry into higher social ranks. But when someone occasionally suffered grievances, they could still only endure. Before leaving the Shi family, I left a letter for Nanny Chen, telling her about Shen Suyu's pregnancy, how the Shen and Shi families had completed the matchmaking process, and about my divorce, and planned to make a clean break with this. Nanny Chen was an experienced woman of the world. Even if she was heartbroken, she would know how to use this matter for maximum benefit. Taking advantage of the Shi family being in the wrong, the Cheng family would make a big scene. From now on, my departure would completely overshadow sister's affair. Our Cheng family daughters could marry equals like other families, and when wronged, would have natal family members who could raise hell at their door. Having received over 10 years of support from the family, this was the last debt Cheng Kai could repay to the Cheng family. From today on, I would no longer be called Cheng Kai. So I chose this window seat on the second floor of this tea house to give my former self one last send-off. That gentleman was right. Cheng Kai's funeral procession would pass by here. In a procession dressed all in white, Big Brother walked at the very front. He was 10 years older than me. Back in those years before elder sister's incident, when mother wasn't yet strict with me, he was the one who doted on me most in the family. But later, mother wouldn't even let him enter my courtyard. Unable to see me, he threw himself even harder into his studies, wanting to elevate the Cheng family's status further, so that no one would dare criticize the Cheng family's daughters. But the official career isn't that easy, grandfather, and he kept working at it, only managing steady progress. I hadn't looked at him carefully in many years. His face now bore more weathering, and though he was a grown man, his eyes were swollen from crying, looking almost like walnuts. Second brother followed behind him, slightly better off, though his nose was red too. I was of the younger generation. Father and mother couldn't see me off. But looking at Big Brother, I knew how heartbroken mother must be. Qingju asked gloomily. "Are we really not telling madam?" My heart ached, but I still shook my head resolutely. "Don't tell her. I don't want to be a daughter of the Cheng family anymore." Mother had Big Brother and second brother and many grandchildren. Her grief would pass. But if I returned to being a daughter of the Cheng family, I'd have to remarry eventually. Even if the rules I'd have to follow weren't as strict as before, there would still be many rules. My life had been trapped within the four walls of a courtyard for over 20 years. I wanted to go see places without walls. I came here to see my family, but I never expected Shi Chang'an would appear. At first glance, I almost didn't dare believe it was Shi Chang'an, the man who had always been refined and upright, as if nothing could bend his spine, was wearing clothes wrinkled into folds, unchanged for who knows how many days. The hem of his garment was even tucked into his waist, and his pant legs and boots were wet clearly. He'd rushed here from the riverside. He stood there in complete disarray, Yet his hand blocked the coffin, his face full of determination as he said, "Elder brother, Kai didn't die. You can't bury her." What answered him was my big brother striding forward and delivering 2 resounding slaps. He struck with force. Shi Chang'an's cheeks immediately reddened, but he still wasn't satisfied, reproaching him harshly. "Let me ask you, in the 5 years my sister was married into your family, was she ever unfilial to her parents? In-law. Was she ever at odds with her sisters? In-law. Did she ever wrong your Shi family in the slightest?" With each question, Shi Chang'an took a step back, shaking his head painfully as he retreated. Or was she narrow-minded, unwilling to manage your household or provide heirs for your Shi family? At this question, Shi Chang'an's eyes filled with bitterness. No, Chung Kai was always the most rule-abiding woman. She wouldn't, and never was jealous. His answer brought Big Brother's anger to its peak. Big Brother grabbed him by the collar, saying grief-stricken, "So you know she didn't dare be jealous. She'd already done this much. Yet your Shi family still divorced her. And divorcing her wasn't enough. Now that she is gone, you are still chasing after her coffin. You say my sister isn't dead. Then where did she go? You mean that 7 days have passed, and if she is alive she won't return home or send word to anyone. She'd just watch her parents and clan suffer with her own eyes. Your Shi family is truly something, first forcing her to request her own dismissal, now questioning her filial piety. Shi Chang'an, even if my sister didn't care about you, she still had to care about her aging father and mother. You were husband and wife for 5 years. Is she the kind of person who would do something so absurd? The former Chung Kai wouldn't, not even if you beat her to death." Panic began to appear on Shi Chang'an's face. He desperately denied it. No, maybe she is just trapped somewhere. Yes, that must be it. She was swept away by the water. She might be unconscious. She... Big Brother released him, his face full of mockery. "So you brought people to search along the river with great fanfare. Do you think we haven't searched? Our Chung family, every single male went. But if she is gone, she is gone. Shi Chang'an, you never thought of her when she was alive, so why are you putting on this show of deep affection now? You say she requested the dismissal herself. I believe it. She was so gentle, she was afraid of causing anyone the slightest difficulty. But if you'd spent even the slightest bit of thought on her, you'd know that losing her position as legitimate wife, she'd feel guilty toward the Cheng family. Between you and herself, she chose you. But what about you? What were you doing? Your current behavior is nothing but inability to face the consequences you caused. So let me tell you clearly, my sister is gone, and you killed her, in the icy river in winter. And our Chung family will never let this go." Shi Chang'an cried, squatting on the ground like a child, holding his head, sobbing his heart out. Big Brother couldn't be bothered with him, went around him, and continued carrying my coffin. Qingju came over in a panic to wipe my face. "Miss, why are you crying? Can't bear to part with the young master. Then let's go home." I touched my cheek, so I was crying. Probably because that person was Shi Chang'an. I both hated and loved him. Shi Chang'an was wrong. I could feel jealousy and envy. The first time I discovered Shen Suyu's existence. That year, Chen Kai married into the Xi family with trepidation. She was rigid, boring, knew a whole bunch of rules. She was also afraid of embarrassing the Cheng family in front of a completely unfamiliar family and man. She tightly held on to the rules her mother taught her, not daring to step wrong even once. It was Shi Chang'an who soothed her fears. No one knew that I made a mistake on our wedding night. That night after the wedding ceremony, I was too shy, and at midnight when I was thirsty, I didn't want to wake Qingju to bring me water. I got up in a fluster and drank what was on the table, but it was wine. That wine wasn't soft like the nuptial wine. It was what Shi Chang'an had brought back, somewhat heavy. Just one sip, and I missed the early rising time the next day. But facing his parents-in-law, Shi Chang'an just smiled and said, "Your son has been tired these past few days and overslept. I hope father and mother won't blame him." Back then, I didn't know what love was. I just felt at ease. I had married a husband willing to protect his wife. For a very long time, I didn't know what love was. When Shi Chang'an treated me well, I would take even more thoughtful care of his meals and daily life. When Shi Chang'an refused to take concubines, I worked hard to find women who seemed suitable for him. until he said he refused concubines because he wanted to be with me alone for our whole lives. I wasn't moved, only afraid. As the lady of the house, especially one without children, how could I monopolize my husband? That is called jealousy, called unfilial, called improper. It would make people gossip about the Cheng family. But strangely, after my mother-in-law told me to stop making such arrangements, my heart secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I thought I should repay Shi Chang'an, so I started learning to read the poetry he liked. Shi Chang'an's study wasn't off-limits to me. He was probably certain that someone as cautious and mild-tempered as me wouldn't make a fuss, even if I discovered something. Then I found letters from Shen Suyu, tucked between the pages of books. To this day, I still remember, it was apricot blossom letter paper, with several lines of elegant handwriting that read, "Shi Chang'an, even if it is just acting, I am still angry." Actually, at that moment, my heart didn't ache. It was just numb. So numb I couldn't understand what those words meant. So numb I didn't know why I was crying. That is the good thing about following rules. I wasn't clever to begin with. So numb that my whole body was in pain. Yet no one noticed I was hurting. It was probably at that moment that I began to hate. If I were still the same old rule, following wooden Cheng Kai, if I had never seen what Shi Chang'an looked like when he loved me, then I would have just smiled and gone to inquire about how to bring this woman in as a concubine. But this person, he was even crueler than an outright scoundrel. He used day and night care to make the wooden block grow a heart. But after the heart grew, he told the wooden block that he and I were just putting on an act to protect another woman. He didn't want the heart that the wooden person struggled through 1,000 hardships, tearing at her very self, to finally grow. Cheng Kai learned about love and hate on the same day. This sentence is the flip side of the cruelest love line I've read this year. She discovered that everything, all of it, was fake. This word, hate, might mean revenge in other stories, might mean turning dark. But for Cheng Kai, hate is awakening. It is the moment a wooden puppet finally realizes, I have a heart. It is the first time she admits, I am not incapable of pain. I've just never been allowed to feel pain. And now, I am allowing myself. Honestly, every time I read those poems of resentful women in classical literature, I think of women like Cheng Kai. When Ban Jiu wrote, always fearing autumn's arrival, when cool winds steal away the summer heat, that was a fallen, from favor concubine cautiously foreseeing her own ending. But she didn't even dare write hate. She could only write fear. Cheng Kai is the same kind of person. She has to be afraid even of jealousy, has to hide even her heartache. So when she finally says, I am beginning to feel hate, please don't think this is a fall from grace. This is a person living for herself for the first time. Those who understand love and hate are like thieves. I've been spying on Shi Chang'an and Shen Suyu for 2 years. I've seen their letters, and that little courtyard he arranged for Shen Suyu when he brought her back to the capital half a year ago. The more I looked, the greater the sorrow in my heart grew. So this is what vivid, living people and love are like. They quarrel, they get angry, they make up. Shen Suyu has her own life. When Shi Chang'an isn't around, she writes poetry, paints, covers her face to go out and earn money, sending it to relatives far away. Gradually, I forgot why I came in the first place, only growing more and more envious that they have their own lives. Why don't I have one? Is it because I am Chengshi Sanyang? I thought hard, then realized dejectedly. Yes, because I am the 13th lady of the Cheng family. The more I thought about it, the less I wanted to be a Cheng family daughter and a Shi family wife. But the Cheng family hasn't wronged me. Going out more, I came to know. There are beggars by the roadside, brothels along the streets. I grew up without worrying about food or clothing, with servants at my beck and call. All because my surname is Cheng. Having benefited from this surname, I must repay this surname's grace. From the moment I discovered Shen Suyu was pregnant, I've been planning for today. Perhaps it won't succeed, but I want to live for myself just once. My 20-some years of propriety became my weapon. Shi Chang'an won't suspect that my voluntary request for divorce is a scheme, and neither the Shi nor Cheng families will think I am capable of abandoning my parents and plan to fake my death. By now, my love and hate for Shi Chang'an have both grown faint. This fake death will bring many benefits to the Cheng family and cause much trouble for both the Shi'ai and Shen families. The Shi family drove away their daughter. In-law Shi Chang'an's official reputation will suffer some impact. Shen Suyu pregnant before marriage will probably have a rough time ahead too, and even her father's official position might end up going to my eldest brother. I never expected that in such a chaotic moment, Shi Chang'an would still come to see me off one last time. So it turns out, even when just going through the motions, one can cry so miserably. He and I only shared 5 years of lies, yet he can weep so bitterly. And he and Miss Shen have so much shared history. Even with all these tribulations added, they'll surely grow old together. Wiping away my tears, I took one last look at Shi Chang'an before leaving with Qingju. Lady Qin was waiting outside the city to see me off. She was the wife of the imperial merchant Yang Chen. Quite well known in Yang'an. When I first met her, she had just remarried to Yang Chen. It was said she had been rather fierce with her previous husband, earning her the nickname Rouge Tiger, which caused the ladies at banquets to avoid conversing with her. Back then, I had just discovered the affair between Shi Chang'an and Shen Suyu. I was utterly lost, and when someone at a banquet mocked me as a clay figure, I didn't know how to fight back, as usual. It was Lady Qin who retorted on my behalf. She said to me, "Lady Chung, in this lifetime, if you are willing to suffer grievances, there'll be endless grievances to suffer. If you won't stand up for yourself, who do you expect to stand up for you?" Such simple words, yet they made the sky seem a bit brighter. As the matriarch of an imperial merchant family, she couldn't afford to remain excluded from aristocratic circles for long. Out of gratitude, I helped her a few times, and gradually she became like an older sister to me. Successfully faking my death and escaping wasn't something I, a cloistered housewife, could have accomplished alone. It was Lady Qin who arranged for Qingju and me to secretly learn swimming, so we could swim to the distant shore ourselves. Now that we're leaving, she also helped us obtain false household registrations. She pressed the 2 registrations into my hand and said reluctantly, "Who knows when we'll meet again? Keep these 2 registrations. They're from a batch my husband prepared long ago. 2 of them match you and Qingju's appearances perfectly. Qingzhou is far from the imperial court, has beautiful scenery and open-minded folk customs. Settle there first, then travel around. I've also found you a reliable friend. He is a traveling merchant with good martial skills and a righteous heart. On the journey, you can learn the Qingzhou dialect from him. Don't worry, aside from my husband and me, no one knows about your situation. He'll just think you are an orphan who grew up elsewhere returning home. Sister Cheng, go live your own life. From now on, your name is Lu Yun." Waving my hand, I bid farewell to Sister Qin. Someone helped me onto the carriage. He smiled brightly and said, "Greetings, Lady Liu. I am Lu Zhenj. On this journey, it'll be the 3 of us traveling together." In the distance, white clouds drifted leisurely, perfect weather for setting out on the road. I never thought I'd see Shen Suyu again in a small town at the border. By then, Lu Zhengaj and I already had a son and a daughter. I wanted to see the most beautiful sunset, so he brought us here. Shen Suyu had opened a small shop. When I lifted the curtain in the carriage and saw her, I thought I'd mistaken her for someone else, but after confirming several times, it was indeed her. Lu Zhenj had long known about my past. Seeing my restlessness, he took the initiative to go out and inquire. After several days, he finally got the news and said to me with a sigh, "You would never guess what happened in Yang'an after you left." After leaving Yang'an, I treated it as a past life. Aside from my family, I truly hadn't cared about anything else. Only after sighing did Lu Zheng continue, "That wishy-washy ex-husband of yours failed to protect both you and that Lady Shen. The matter caused such a huge commotion that the Shi family resolutely refused to marry her as the legal wife again. The Shen family's plan to restore their official position also fell through. They only got a minor post, and Shen Suyu still became a concubine. That would have been fine, but the Shi family wanted to restore their reputation, and kept pestering your family to marry another woman from the Chung clan. Your family naturally refused, but somehow, Shi Chang'an coincidentally met one of your nieces, who looked about 50% like you. After returning home, he had his mother visit to propose marriage. It is said that on that very night, a great fire broke out in the Shi household. That fire injured Shi Chang'an and caused Shen Suyu and her daughter to disappear. After Shi Chang'an was injured, he could no longer serve as an official. Now he works as a tutor in the clan. Although the Shi family hasn't said it explicitly, they've been searching for Lady Shen all these years, seemingly wanting to hold her accountable. I recalled that flamboyant face when I first met Shen Suyu. It was something her temperament was capable of doing. She and I weren't exactly friends, but somehow I wanted to sigh for her. Lu Zhengsh pouted and said, "Oh my, are you feeling sorry for that guy surnamed Shi?" I shook my head. Not for him. I feel it is not worth it for another person. Their entanglement ran deeper than mine. Over 20 years, they had done all sorts of absurd things to be together. Yet it ended with both sides defeated and injured. Shi Chang'an wronged me and failed to protect her either. If we're talking about who is more at fault, his fault was the greatest. Lu Zheng hugged me with amusement. You are just too soft-hearted. For someone who hurt my wife, I am not generous enough to give her money, but I'll reluctantly ensure the Shi family doesn't find her. I smiled and kissed his cheek. That is enough. She and I only have this much of a connection. After the kiss, Lu Zheng returned a tender kiss. In a daze, he said to me, "Wife, your eldest brother has been transferred to Yunzhou. Times have changed. Let's go visit him. I know you miss them." Finished reading it. I don't know how to describe my feelings after finishing this story. I want to talk about them one by one. Let's start with Chung Kai. She is the most complex female protagonist I've read this year. She is an ordinary girl who has been shaped by rules for over 20 years. Her awakening wasn't an instantaneous thing. It wasn't like she suddenly saw the light one day, nor was she jolted into enlightenment by being hurt by a scumbag. Her awakening was slow, painful, even awkward. She first learned to love, then learned to hate, then spent 2 years secretly observing Shen Suyu's life, and gradually realized, oh, so people can live like that. But the first thing she did after awakening wasn't revenge, it was repaying debts. She calculated what she owed the Cheng family, calculated the mess her sister left behind, and even her escape had to be done responsibly. This isn't weakness. This is the greatest rebellion someone who grew up within rules could manage. I am leaving, but I won't let anyone suffer because of my departure. Some might say she should have exposed everything, should have made a scene, should have ruined Shi Chang'an's reputation. But that is not Cheng Kai. She couldn't do it, and didn't want to. Not because she still loved Shi Chang'an, but because that is not her way. Her way is, I'll leave quietly, but after I am gone, you'll all experience what consequences mean. Facts proved she was right. The character Shen Suyu is so interesting. She and Chung Kai are two sides of a coin. Chung Kai was educated to be the most obedient woman, while Shen Suyu was naturally born to be the most flamboyant one. She dared to love and hate, dared to openly declare war on Chung Kai, dared to demand the legitimate wife's position while pregnant. But in the end, Shi Chang'an protected neither of them. There are 2 fires in this story. Cheng Kai's sister set one, and Shen Suyu set one too. 2 completely different women, driven to the same dead end, made the same choice. This isn't coincidence. This is fate. In that era, whether you were the most obedient or the most flamboyant, as long as you were a woman who met the wrong man, the ending was equally difficult. The only difference is that Cheng Kai found a third path. She neither perished together with everything like her sister, nor ended up mutually destroyed like Shen Suyu. She chose to disappear. Quietly, gracefully, without hurting anyone, to disappear. All right, let me share some of my own thoughts. This piece made me think about so many things. I thought about women of my grandmother's generation, about how my mom was taught as a child that girls need to be sensible, about how sometimes I am clearly unhappy, but still smile and say it is fine. Our era has already gotten so much better, yet this kind of education hasn't completely disappeared. It has just changed its appearance. You need to be sensible. Don't be so difficult. What is wrong with being more magnanimous? Girls shouldn't have such a bad temper. Each sentence isn't meant with malice. The person saying it even thinks they're doing it for your own good. But sentence by sentence, they pile up into a square courtyard, enclosing a person's temper, desires, and self entirely within. Just like the poem Li Qingzhao wrote, in life, be an outstanding hero, in death, be a heroic ghost. Back then, she too must have had a square courtyard to climb over. Finally, I want to ask everyone a question. If you were Chung Kai, would you choose to fake your death and leave, or stay and have it out with Shi Chang'an? Actually, there is no standard answer. Having it out is courage, Quietly leaving is also courage. As long as the final result is, you are living for yourself, then it is right. See you in the next good read.